thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to be talking about Dune Prophecy's costumes, like crazy, crazy designs, so intricate. How are you doing today?
So much. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good. This is my day off today,
Yeah.
one in the week. And yeah, I'm fine. And I'm really looking forward to talk with you
Oh,
about
me
this.
too. Thank you so much for taking the time on your day off, and congratulations on your Emmy nomination. Also,
Thank you.
congratulations on your win for the Costume Designers Guild Award. That must be really exciting to
Oh,
have a
yes.
second nomination for a show like this. And how
Oh,
does it feel to have this recognition, both from your peers and from the industry now, for a sci-fi show like this?
it's fantastic. I must say this year has been, until now, I mean, great. Really, it's first the Costume Designers Guild.
Mhm.
I mean, when you get the something direct that is coming from your colleagues, from the professionals, from people that I really respect, and it was a dream come true, absolutely. And after that, this Emmy nomination, it's really amazing. I'm really glad because not only because of me, but because of the whole team that was working on Dune Prophecy, and we are again together because we are prepping the second season. So it was a real pleasure to share the nomination, the joy for and the happiness for the nomination with them.
Yeah, absolutely. This definitely, it's always a team effort. And especially with a show like this with so many different costumes and so many new designs and all the intricate details in there as well, and a large cast. So really, it's really well deserved. I'm really glad that they're getting the recognition for the work that you've done. So
Thank
let's dive right in. So given that Dune Prophecy is set 10,000 years before the events that we see in the Dune movies, how did you approach the costumes for this show, and specifically the unique challenge of both making them feel like historic within that world, but still having them be similar enough, or still feel kind of related to what we see in the Dune movie, and still have that like futuristic feel because Dune obviously is like super far in the future to our world technically. So how did you
you.
go about doing that?
It's so difficult to imagine where we are in a Dune prophecy. I in the beginning I really needed to clear out in my head where are we, because we are 10,000 years before the Dune movies, but we are still in a future from where we are now in a real world. So I mean, it was challenging.
Mhm.
I collaborated with the other parts of the team, with the production designer, Tom Mayer, with Alison Shepka, who is the showrunner, with the directors who were doing the show. And we needed to find our own aesthetic, I think, and
Mhm.
I hope we succeeded in making our own visual identity, still being on that trace and line that was so well done in a Dune movies, but still having our own, uh, as I said, aesthetic
Yeah.
or visual identities. Because,
Yeah.
as you said, it is in a way, it's following this. I think in a costume, and talking about costume now, there's this clear and simple silhouette when needed, but it has, I think we worked a lot on a color palettes that are different in a different planets, or depending where are we in that moment in a story, because we had Valachnan, we have Caladan, Lankeville, we have Salusa Secundus, which is completely different. So it was so interesting, and I hope we managed to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like it was so amazing seeing, and we will dive into like some of those different costume identities for those different places. And the one that I want to start off with, and specifically because there is a very like huge tie-in to the Dune movies, is the Sisterhood, right? Because they become eventually the Bene Gesserit. So how did you come
Yes.
up with the visual look for the Sisterhood, both in terms of like, expanding on what we see in Dune and having that sort of through line, but also creating like because they're still technically in the beginnings of the sisterhood, right? Like they're still fairly new, but they're still very established when we see them, especially when Valya is older and is now Mother Superior. So how did you come up with the cohesive looks that we see between the different like types of sisters. Like there's the acolytes, there's sisters, there's Mother Superior. There's also their looks when they're off world versus, at the at home, like where they're learning. So talk to us about that.
That was the main thing. I mean, to find the good look for sisterhood,
Mhm.
because we have so many costumes there. I mean, we have, as you said, many extras. We have them in the sisterhood, but we have them as a truthsayers or Bene Gesserit when Salusa Secundus. So it was really important to make the good silhouette, the look that will be recognizable and in a way iconic,
Mhm.
and still to follow that simplicity that we saw also in the movies, but create our own veils that are so important for the Bene Gesserit group of ladies, and so it was. For me, that's what I started with. Like, let's see, how are we going to do the sisterhood? And then we made so many drawings, and we went through different silhouettes, and then at a certain point we realized it would be good to have different colors for young novices. Then we have an acolytes, and then we have Reverend Mothers, and I think that helped a lot also to understand how Valya improved sisterhood in these 30 years from the very beginning, and then when we see her as a grown-up woman who is in charge of the sisterhood. So that was the most important thing, and we finally got to the silhouette that you see in the costume that you see in the series, which is actually the overall. It's like a jumpsuit because they're wearing trousers, which from the back it looks completely like a dress, but actually
Oh,
uh, jumpsuit. And I think all the girls and all the actresses who came and put the costume, they were like really thrilled and they really loved it because there is something in, even for us women, who when you put the trousers you feel in a way more relaxed when you move, when you sit, you don't have to think how are you going to, sit or move or run. And it was important because they have so many different scenes and so many different things to do in a scenes. They all love it, and we gave them also pockets, to have that relaxed thing that if they want, they can put the hands in the pockets.
yeah.
And I remember even Emily liked it so much. I mean, when she put the costume for the Emily Watson loved it so much because she immediately put the hands in the pocket, and it gave her another, posture, we tried. It's when you're doing things like this, it's so important to look good, but also to be sure that the actor will feel fine in the costume, but in the same way that the costume will work well for the character. And I think that here we did it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I love that you added the pockets because, like, at least in our world, it's something that's so rare for
Yeah.
women to have.
Yeah, it gives something, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe even they were used rarely, but they all loved it so much because, it gives something, it adds something
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and I love the silhouettes are like they're very similar like throughout the entire, I guess, life of, a woman becoming a sister. Like they're still like the flowy skirt is present throughout all of like the iterations of the not outfit, the costume, or sorry, the uniform that they're wearing. And then you get to also see like the difference between the Mother Superior when we see Valya and her headdress being different than the other sisters. And I love that like there's very distinct ways of distinguishing them, even while at home, with Mother Superior. Like we've got the ring, and we've got the necklace that we see Mother Raquel wearing, and then Mother Valia later on when she becomes Mother Superior. Could you talk about like those distinctions as well, and like the choices that you made to have them be distinct, and also correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was a little bit of leeway once they become sisters to have a little bit of uniqueness in their outfit. At least with Sister Francesca, I could see like the the fabric that she's got on, like the detailing in that in the embroidery there seemed to be unique to her. So if you could talk about that as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned it and
Yeah.
that you noticed all the details. That was the point. As you said, it is uniform,
Mhm.
and when it's uniform, it has to have some details to make it interesting, also for the camera, for the audience. So we worked a lot on this embossing that we can see in the upper part, and we have it also in the lower part, but
Mhm.
mostly in the frame. You see this. Then we worked on Valya Harkonnen's look, especially when she goes out of Valak 9, and we needed to show her full Mother Superior look. That's another level. So we added a different embossing on her dress, and then costume, and
Yeah.
then metal details. I'm always emphasizing that all these things have been done hand by hand. So all the embossing and all the pieces, metal pieces, and everything on jewelry. Her ring is 3D printed, but the jewelry that you can see on the costume, like a little brooch that they're all wearing it's all handmade. Like her necklace, it's handmade, and those things are giving that special touch, I think, to the costume. Also, we really worked and we made different options for the headpiece until we got the right one that was just good enough, good for what we wanted for the character, not too because it had to be simple, but it had to give her the character certain, elegance and also power. And it was really important when she enters, especially with the veil that is almost it's there, but it's so transparent that you almost don't see it, and you can see her eyes well, and all her movements on the face. So, but everything when she enters, also a very important part was a cape. Cape is really elaborated, and we use the same pattern that we are using on the embossing on a sisterhood. So it's all, it's all been well thought of. All
Yeah.
the details came together in the story of sisterhood on the Valach 9, and everything that Valia Harkonnen did for it. So that was, I'm glad that you noticed, because yes, on the Reverend Mothers that are dressed in black, we have a little bit more embossing than the other costumes, and
Mhm.
they have a little bit different capes in the sisterhood. Another thing that we didn't mention for sisterhood, and I love, that's one of my favorite
Mhm.
costumes, are Prana Bindu costumes, when they are doing Prana Bindu yoga,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is they're yes, the one with the off-white one, and we see them in a different weather conditions under the rain and etc. So, and again, even on that embossing and stitching on those costumes, we are using the pattern that we have on the brooch, which is like eternity sign, So it was all, we were thinking about these details. They're not there just, for the costume, but like well thought.
No,
Yeah.
very, very, like I can see it on screen. And I noticed even like the patterns of the fabric as well between the acolytes, the costume that they're wearing, and
Yes.
like you said, the one where they're doing that outdoor yoga. And
Another thing that oh, sorry,
oh, no,
sorry.
no, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I didn't. Sorry to interrupt you. The thing that we had to get so many meters of the costume, of fabric, that
Mhm.
was, I can't explain to you how challenging it was.
Yeah.
Sorry that I
No,
interrupted.
totally
Yeah.
fine. I was going to switch gears a little bit because Valia, you were talking about her outfit when she goes to Salucha Secundus, and she's very much commanding presence there. And she's fitting in with the Imperium because the Imperium is very decadent and regal and all of the costumes that we see. And she almost has to kind of like step it up a little bit in order to like command presence in that and also fit in a little bit stylistically. So could you talk about the designs for the Imperium and just how you kind of came up with all of these different unique costumes that we get to see?
Yeah. So Imperium was another, like family Corrino was another big group and important part of the story. So Corrino represents, first of all, as you said, Salusa Secundus, it's a completely different environment. Now we are in something that looks like a Mediterranean in our world, and it's sunny and it's colorful and it's powerful at the same time. And then we have this family which has been established for a long time, and we needed to show how important, how they are. We needed to show even through their look that the tradition and royalty and power that they possess. So if on Valak 9 we went, because the planet is misty and rainy and windy, we went to different shades of gray, which were very good palette for the Sisterhood. Here in Salusa Secundus for Corrino, we wanted to show the regality, the elegance and class of this family. And we went to this, we used different kind of royal blue or teal and pomegranate red and gold, but always thinking that they are like they are all money in a way in our world. They have really that tradition, and they don't have to show off. It's already when you see them, you can see the power and the tradition of the family. So when we first see Javi Corrino, we really worked on that embossing that he has on a different coat that he's wearing in a series. And I'm very proud of the technique that we finally managed to make. We managed to make it work with the different pressing and embossing and laser cutting and putting one layer on the top of the other to find this, not only do it with the stitching or painting or something, but like do it literally to have another layer in the costume. So we liked it very much, and then we started building also the epaulets and everything, all the insignias for his costume. But as I told you, we were always mixing like very high-tech techniques and then handmade things.
Yeah.
Like if on the coat you have laser cut and things, then here you have handmade epaulets and all the insignia and details on his belts.
Oh, it's beautiful. Like the embossing in particular, like caught my eye as soon as I saw it. And again, like all the little details as well in the costume. Actually, I think Dario was saying that you had embossed or you put in like his initials in the collar as well,
Yes.
which is such a
Yes,
cool detail to have, and something that, somebody like an emperor would definitely have that included in his outfit.
yeah,
I do just want to quickly, because I'm keeping my eye on
yes,
time, and there's a
yeah,
couple more characters that I want to talk about and a couple more outfits that I want to talk about there. So first, obviously, Princess Inez's engagement dress was just incredible. Like I kept pausing the screen and like looking at the details, and I think that it tells a really beautiful story, both in terms of like her as a character and who she could be in or like what she's thinking kind of down the line. And it's both I love like the details of the straps because it kind of feels a little bit more kind of like a prison in a way, and especially that the headpiece that she has, that jewelry piece that feels like a cage around her face, but then also the veil, because that is to me was a nod to the sisterhood, and that's where she was hoping to go and where she was hoping to get her power from. So could you talk about that costume and how it came together?
I'm so glad that you noticed all these details because you were telling exactly what I wanted to tell through this costume. Yeah, it was a long process of getting the right sketch for that costume. And I'm so glad that we went through all different phases until when I found it, when I was working with the illustrator, finally, when I said, this is the one. But even then, when we started building it, it's not always, you think, oh, okay, now I know exactly, this is it. And then on the drawing, the base was like a nude color. And then the red, we had this red laser cut fabric that we wanted to put. And then the veil was nude. We thought of using a nude tulle, very transparent silk tulle with the red details. And when we started building, I said, this is not red enough. This absolutely, it's not red dress anymore. So now we have to do something else. And I mean, the same thing, but we literally understood. And I always listen to my collaborators, and I always tell how important they are for me, because my textile artist, who is brilliant, Italian, Sylvia, she told me, said, why don't you think about putting the red tulle instead of new? I said, this is it. I mean, we have to make a red veil, red dress completely. There's no nude tones in it. It has to be really powerful. And, you know, when we see her, and to tell this story that you just told us and about, it's also the story about her mother, and that's the dress that her mother is wearing on the portrait that we're seeing. We have the scene where the mother is trying panier and corset before the engagement party, and telling the story about these pieces. And so everything was really important it's the story of women in that family. And the upper part for me was really important, because as you said, it is a kind of a net or prison or almost cage, or she's forced to go into that path. And yeah, and the headpiece as well, and also the veil, that it's always when you put the veil, what Emily Watson said, and it's so true. She said there is something really special when you put the veil. Even when you are acting, it gives you a different dimension. You know, you are even acting different. So when you're wearing veils, probably it's a different. Have different contact with other people. So it was so important for her to have that veil that is actually almost the part of the dress. When you see it in the first shot, it's from the back. It's like all one piece. And yeah, we made that fabric for that dress. We put one layer of red silk on the top of the other using laser cut, and everything, all the headpiece is handmade. The veil was every single piece glued on it is done by hand by our crew. So I'm happy that the audience loved it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely a standout in a series of beautiful, beautiful costumes. I loved it. And you were mentioning like the story with her mother. I love that we got that sort of behind the scenes of her sort of putting it on so you could appreciate like the layers more. And her dress being like really bold is very much in contrast to another character that we get to see, Desmond Hart. Because he is somebody that we don't actually know anything about. All we know is that he's a soldier who arrives from Arrakis, and his initial outfit almost seems like a blank slate. But you can tell that there's like something going on behind the scenes, like he's trying to worm his way into Corrino's inner circle. So could you talk about Desmond's character and whether, you know, like the different costumes, because there's a little bit of like there's something there, right? Like even when he transitions to to the second costume that is a little bit more what's the word? It's a little bit more polished military look, but there's still a little bit of like rebellion there with like the open lapel. And then I'll continue with the question just so you have time to speak. And then the other thing too, whether you put any hints to his heritage before we actually find out.
Yeah, Desmond Hart was another thing who's so important to see how is he going to look. He had to be someone when we see him, we have to see that he doesn't look like anyone in that show, and anyone that we saw before in the scene. So uh, I I from the beginning, I really talked a lot with Alison Shepker and then Anna Forster, who was directing the first episode, and also the producer and thing. I said I wanted that duster coat, almost like a Western duster coat. You know, in the movies when somebody, the very intriguing, mysterious figure comes and we don't know who he is, but there is, you know, that everything is going to be changed everything will change from that moment. So that
Mhm.
I think it's really well done when he arrives, that shot from the back, you know, and that coat of flying around him. It's like, now we're in trouble. Something will happen. Yeah, and that's and working with Travis it was a pleasure also because he has so many ideas. And sometimes I follow them, sometimes I said, wait a minute, we have to go back. But I mean, the fittings were good from the beginning, and then that we wanted to show the color was also different than anything else, but it was good. It was related to where he's coming from. He was coming from Iraq. We know that he is in the Imperial Guard, but we don't know. And he has some insignias that are not really telling us who his rank or whatever, what he really is. So, and he has that rings that we don't know, that he's very passionate. He's using them and touching them through we don't know where does it come from. And he has that special piece of fabric that's the only thing practically that he has from his past. And it was a piece of his mother sisterhood gown. So that was something that we wanted to have in costume, as a part of a costume for his character.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. I loved I actually did not notice that piece of fabric, because I was trying to look at hints in his outfit to see after we find out who he is, being her son. I was trying to find little pieces, but I did not catch on to that little piece of fabric. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Awesome.
always having that. Yeah, it has also the embossing, but camera would have. They
There we
didn't want
go.
to go so. Probably they didn't want to go so close, because we would
Keep the
then think
mystery.
about, like this. It remained until the end. Something
Yeah.
that we know. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you. I could keep going forever, but I
Me
obviously
too.
I want to respect your time. Is there anything you can tell us about season two really quickly? Have you started at all? Just real quick on that.
I mean, I just that we are so lucky that we are doing this as a season two,
Oh,
and we are so happy that we are doing it. And it was
amazing.
a real
Oh, go ahead.
pleasure talking to you.
Oh, it was such a pleasure talking to you too.